Hi, my name is Leticia Garza, and I'm reflecting on the board meeting. The board meeting was called to order at exactly 6 p.m. as intended. The board meeting began with the board president stating the date and time and called the meeting to order. He then proceeded to state the first item of the agenda, which is roll call. There was a board member that was not currently present when roll call took place, but arrived shortly afterwards. The next item on the agenda was prayer. The board president stated, "Please bow your head for a moment of silence." There wasn't an actual individual who led a prayer. Instead, a moment of silence was given. The Pledge of Allegiance followed the prayer and was recited as an entire group. The Texas flag was not observed. The board president ran most of the meeting. On items that were complex, the superintendent took a more active role in the meeting, particularly when answering questions. Throughout the entire meeting, the school board members asked clarifying questions and made direct eye contact with the superintendent and asked him in multiple cases, "Is that correct, Dr. Moreno?" when asking about information or clarifications on action items. Individuals interested in public comments must indicate their interest before the board meeting begins. They can ask it during the day of. There were no individuals that participated in the public comment. In total, about 14 people, aside from the superintendent, spoke during the board meeting. The individuals ranged from community members, district administrators, campus administrators, and teachers. The board meeting started with the superintendent's celebrations. During these celebrations, Robstown Early College High School cheerleading sponsor presented to the board the students' accomplishments. The cheerleading girls, received several first place awards during their summer cheer camp. And this year, they will be participating for the first time ever in UIL cheer competition. The students each received an award and were recognized. This celebration was followed by the high school's girls athletic director, who presented the girls basketball team from last school year. The girls participated in their first ever playoff game in basketball in the school's history. The girls were recognized along with Coach Williams, who further explained that these same students were also participating in volleyball this school year and are currently undefeated. The board meeting followed by the celebrations was the drainage district presentation. This agenda item was very educational to me as the discussion dealt with a memorandum of understanding. And it did bring a lot of discussion from some of the board members. The chairman of Nueces County Precinct Number 2, along with an engineer and another member, came to present to the district information and requesting a memorandum of understanding or a letter of support. He further explained that the city of Robstown had already provided them with the memorandum of understanding and was needing the district's support as well. Some of the future projects that they would like to complete pertain to drainage structures along the city, specifically along our football stadium and two of the elementary campuses. The chairman explained that the partnership was not a grant, even though three of the individuals presenting made it clear that it was not a grant and that we would not have access to any budget and that it would be at no cost to our district. Board members still inquired about financial compensation or financial components of it. Two things that were really educational to me was first, that some memorandums of understanding are just support for each other towards a common goal. And in this case, it was at no cost to our community. Second was that the importance to work collaboratively with outside agencies to provide support in maintenance for other components that affect our students. In this case, our drainage system. The district head nurse followed the was the one that followed. She was next in the agenda, and she presented the shack report. With the help of the assistant superintendent of operations, who was there to help clarify questions that the head nurse was not able to answer. The superintendent continued with updates. He reminded the board members that the TASB conference was upcoming on Thursday in Dallas, and also was requesting a team of 8 training, and had recommended several dates for all 8 members of the team to be present. He asked the board members to review the dates and to get back with him with the best time to meet. He then proceeded in picking up the Caller Times newspaper and expressed how successful the trainings for the standard response protocol trainings were, and that they were currently being held at all campuses, and that the newspaper was highlighting the parent training held at the junior high. The superintendent then proceeded in asking the director of public relations to come to the podium. She then added more highlights for our district. The agenda was followed, and there were 2 items in the consent agenda: the approval of the minutes and the budget amendments. Consent agenda items were not pulled at this time. What was pulled was under business and support and action for stipend compensation for inclusion teachers. The chief financial officer had the opportunity to come up to the podium several times to clarify questions that the board had in regards to the budget, stipends, and compensation plans. This meeting was controversial, as one of the board members placed in the agenda an action to discuss and consider approval of a compensation plan amendment. The item is in reference to adding a $400 bonus effective immediately to all Robstown ISD staff. The discussion held was pertaining toward staff members, specifically teachers, who were discontent with the raise that had recently passed. This item was discussed in great detail and the conversation did get a little heated. 6 board members were present when it was voted on. It received 4 yeas and 2 nays, so the item passed. The deputy superintendent was next on the agenda, and she presented to the board the agenda item of staff development and answered clarifying questions. Next on the agenda was discussion for purchase of 2 additional autism sensory rooms at the elementaries. The cost of one of them was $53,433, and the cost of the second one was $63,347. The director of special education came up to discuss the purchase of 2 additional autism sensory rooms for the elementary campuses. She, along with some of her staff, explained to the board how the district currently was able to purchase 1 autism sensory room at one of the campuses. Students had previously been the individuals explained how, because they already had a sensory room at one of the elementary campuses, that it was having a lot of positive reaction from the students, students with autism. She had said one of the comments mentioned was the students who had previously been nonverbal were beginning to speak more and were spending more time on task in the classroom. They also explained how different districts across the state heard about the sensory room and were scheduling appointments with the district to observe the sensory room. This item was received with great enthusiasm and passed unanimously with great anticipation of adding 2 additional sensory rooms for our students with special needs. The director of operations then took the podium to discuss the purchase of a chiller at the junior high campus. He explained the conditions of the current chiller and what steps the maintenance department took in trying to maintain the chiller for 3 additional years and the cost effectiveness of it. He also presented 4 different quotes and gave a recommendation for the purchase of a new chiller, which passed. The deputy superintendent took the floor once again to discuss a class size waiver for the elementaries. She explained that the increase in numbers would be of one additional student to 5 classrooms that impacted 3 elementaries, specifically the kindergarten classrooms. The board members explained concern over the size in the classrooms, and the deputy superintendent explained that it was difficult to justify hiring an extra teacher, which would make the teacher have only 5 students. She further explained that the class size is something that the curriculum office monitors on a daily basis. Overall, different district administrators and campus administrators were asked to come to the podium and present. The interactions between campus and district leaders, along with city and county leaders, took place throughout the entire board meeting. This board meeting was very interactive from beginning to end. It demonstrated the needs for partnerships and collaborations, not only within the campus and central office administration, but the city. The board meeting did go into closed session to discuss resignations. Technology used at the time was the microphones and a computer with a projector that is available if a presentation requires a computer. In this specific meeting, all presentations were provided verbally. The director of technology was present and available when there appeared to be issues with one of the microphones. The board meeting was recorded electronically and posted on YouTube, which the link is connected to the district website. A copy of the minutes is usually sent out to all Robstown ISD staff the following day by the superintendent's secretary. The school board's attorney was not present at the time. Irma Padilla, the superintendent's secretary, along with the assistant superintendent's clerk and a police officer, closed the building. Many campus and district administrators, along with board members, were still present at the adjournment of the meeting. About 15 to 20 minutes elapsed before the board room was completely empty. The meeting adjourned at 9:46. Board members said goodbye to a few administrators that were still present and left the building shortly afterwards. Aside from friendly conversation, board members left the building quietly. As I reflect on the agenda and the meeting that took place, I would say that most of the meeting dealt with managerial components that are needed to run the district. The memorandum of understanding between the district and the drainage district number 2, the budget amendments, revisions of the school calendar, purchases of a chiller for the junior high, and class size waivers. All those dealt with managerial. A small portion of the meeting dealt directly with students. For example, the celebrations and the purchase of an autism sensory room. That although it is not directly related to students, once purchased and built will have an impact on our students and, of course, professional development for our teachers. That as mentioned, although students are not directly involved with the professional development plan, that the plan will help teachers, specifically our reading language arts teachers, with the tools to proceed with the implementation of the new reading and language arts standards. Most of the meeting went well. It was well organized and board members were well informed on the items. There was one item that was presented vaguely on the agenda, which dealt with the $400 compensation for all Robstown ISD staff, effective immediately. Some of the board members expressed that the agenda item was not clearly defined in the agenda. The board member that had requested it be placed on the agenda mentioned that when he requested it be placed on the agenda, that he was very clear on it with the superintendent, so that the vagueness needed to be addressed with the superintendent. As I reflect on how this agenda item went, I would have requested that the item at that moment be placed for closed session for further discussion, where they could vote in closed session. It is understandable that not all our board members will agree. However, we need to come to a consensus that once exiting the closed session, we will need to be supporting each other. The other item that was very educational to me is the memorandum of understanding between the district and the drainage district. As mentioned before, this was an excellent example where the community, in partnership with the district, will be able to complete projects that benefit both, and in this case, with no financial burden to the district. As I reflect on this experience, I will try to use my influence on a more global spectrum. We have a lot of support through our community liaisons. We need to foster that support and use it to build stronger schools in a stronger community.